I observed my sister's complexion drain of color, and in that moment, I experienced an unparalleled sense of satisfaction, a moment of pure satisfaction. Previously, I assisted an elderly gentleman on the bus, a kind-hearted individual. We conversed the entire time. As I stepped off, he inquired if he could accompany me to my sister's real estate office. He mentioned that he could be intrigued by certain characteristics. I was completely unaware of his true identity. Upon catching sight of him, Vanessa felt a rush of emotions. As she stood in her lobby, time seemed to stand still. Her complexion lost all its hue. Her delicate hands began to tremble, and this kind old stranger gazed upon my strong, self-assured sister, who always seemed to have everything under control. And she said, "Hello, Vanessa. I believe you informed your sister that I was dead. Allow me to begin from the start. My name is Leah Stoner. I am 31 years old and have spent the last 3 years serving as the office manager at Stoner Real Estate, Scottsdale, Arizona. At first glance, the title of office manager may seem quite impressive, but the reality often tells a different story. This signifies that I take on tasks that others prefer to avoid. I handle phone calls. I submit documentation. I arrange meetings. When the cleaning lady is unable to come, I take it upon myself to clean the bathroom. I brew a cup of coffee. A multitude and an abundance of coffee. All of this comes at a cost of $38,000 a year, which in Scottsdale just manages to pay for my studio apartment rent. My apartment is so tiny that I have to step outside just to rethink my thoughts. But hey, at least I can clean the entire space without having to unplug anything. That's what we refer to as efficiency. My sister Vanessa possesses the organization. She's 38, 7 years my senior, and she leads a life that is entirely distinct for interesting existence. She navigates the roads in a sleek white Porsche Cayenne. She possesses a residence in Paradise Valley, valued at $2.3 million. She adorns herself in designer dresses and indulges in hair appointments every 2 weeks at a salon, where the cost per visit exceeds my entire grocery budget. Within a month, I find myself behind the wheel of a 2009 Toyota that seems to have a penchant for breaking down at the most inconvenient times. My mechanic recognizes me personally. It seems I might be funding his children's education. It's a common question. How can two sisters be so distinct? I once found myself pondering the very same question. Vanessa consistently stood out as the intelligent one, the driven one, the one who had her life understood. I was the younger sibling, always in tow, seeking assistance, never fully managing to find my footing. That was my conviction at the very least. For 12 years, that was the narrative I crafted for myself. Our parents passed away in a tragic car accident when I found myself at the age of 19. A driver under the influence disregarded a red light and collided with them as they were returning home from dinner. With just a single phone call, everything changed. The world crumbled. As a sophomore in college, still on the cusp of adulthood, I found myself suddenly faced with providing the ground. There was a child without a family. At that time, Vanessa was 26 years old. She settled in with me right away. She mentioned that she would handle all matters with care. The arrangements for the funeral, the legal matters, the estate, the coverage. She managed everything with grace. I felt utterly shattered, reduced to tears, struggling to recall the very act of breathing. Several weeks following the funeral, Vanessa took the time to sit me down and clarify the financial situation. She mentioned that our parents were burdened with more debt than, has anyone noticed? The residence was burdened with a substantial mortgage. There existed credit cards, loans, and various secrets they had concealed from us. Once all matters were resolved, she informed me that my portion of the inheritance amounted to $15,000. $15,000. That is the sum of my parents' entire existence. It seems that half of nothing so much. I accepted it without hesitation. What would be the reason for me to do that? This was my sibling, the individual who embraced me as I wept at the funeral, the A person who ensured I nourished myself, who saw to it that I found rest, who kept me from unraveling entirely. She managed everything, so there was no need to. She softly informed me that we were alone, with no family remaining. Our mother was an only child. She lost her parents when we were young. Our father had been distanced from his own dad, a man by the name of Theodore Brennan, throughout the majority of our existence. I was merely 3 years old when the conversations ceased. There's something about Grandpa that remains unspoken, endorsing our mother, a foolish conflict that remained unresolved. Dad adopted Mom's maiden name, Stoner, and sever all connections with the Brennan side. Vanessa shared with me that Grandpa passed away a few years prior to the accident involving our parents. Cardiac arrest. Father never had the opportunity to reconcile with him. And that was the end of it. No parents, no grandparents, no aunts or relatives. It's just Vanessa and me against the world. I hung on to every word. I found myself without justification against it. Once the inheritance money was depleted, which happened swiftly, I left college and began engaging in tasks. Positions in retail, serving tables, temporary roles, anything that was available. For years, I struggled to endure. I transitioned from a small apartment to an even smaller one. I enjoyed ramen and generic cereal. I observed my sister's life expand and radiate with brilliance, while my own remained modest and ash. 3 years ago, Vanessa extended a job offer to me. She mentioned that her company was, as the business expanded, she found herself in need of a reliable individual, someone to oversee the office and take care of the daily operations. She would compensate. I earned $38,000 a year. It may not have been grand, but it offered a sense of security. I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. At long last, my sister was lending me a hand. At last, I would possess something reliable. I was unaware that she had a purpose for keeping me near. I failed to see that the job was merely a means of control, designed to maintain my dependence and ensure I never sought beyond its confines. Examine anything too intently. I was the one who brought the coffee. That defined who I was. 3 years spent retrieving lattes, arranging files, and responding with, "Yes, Vanessa," to every request. I even received elevated from coffee girl to coffee woman. Familiar brew, just a touch more intriguing title. On that Tuesday morning, my venerable Toyota has chosen to fade away once more. For the 3rd time that month, the mechanic quoted a price of $900 for the repairs. I possessed $340 in my bank account. Profile. As I boarded the bus to work, a wave of stress washed over me. I was running late and utterly clueless. The upcoming 20 minutes would unravel a tapestry of deceit woven over 12 long years. No concept that assisting in Mutiverse, the discovery of the old man's seat would alter everything I believed about my family. I had no clue that my sister had constructed her whole empire built upon a base of deceit, larceny, and treachery. There I found myself on the brink of witnessing everything unravel. Before we proceed, if you're finding pleasure in the tale, kindly tap that later, hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is in your location. I perused each PM. I truly appreciate every comment and enjoy hearing from you. I truly appreciate your presence here. Let's return to the task at hand, the 7:15 bus. The morning was bustling with activity. I settled into a seat toward the center, pushing aside thoughts of how I would manage to pay for the car. Restorations. I might consider approaching Vanessa once more about getting an advance on my paycheck. She consistently instilled a sense of guilt within me regarding it. She often reminded me of the fortune I had in this role, yet she typically agreed. The bus came to a halt, and an elderly gentleman ascended onto the vessel. He was impeccably attired, sporting a sharp blazer, neatly pressed slacks, and gleaming shoes, yet he found himself grappling with the phases. With a cane grasped in one hand and a leather bag clutched in the other, he struggled to balance the two. Subsequently, he let go of the cane. I sprang into action, instinctively grasping his arm to prevent his fall, and retrieved the cane with a swift motion. He gazed at me with her bright blue eyes and smiled. "Well," he remarked, "that's the most thrill I've experienced all week. Thank you, young lady." I assisted him to my seat, the only vacant one in the vicinity, and assured him it was no trouble at all. I would stand for the remainder of the journey, just 15 more minutes to go. He presented himself as Ted. He mentioned he was in the area, exploring real estate possibilities, perhaps considering a move to a smaller space from his current residence. He inquired about my profession. I mentioned to him that I was employed at a real estate office. I expressed some dissatisfaction regarding my boss. I was taking to the other insistent. Just the typical sharing of thoughts you engage in with unfamiliar faces you'll never encounter again. As I pressed, when the name of the company, Stoner Real Estate, was mentioned, a fleeting spark ignited in his eyes. I did not give it much thought. We engaged in conversation for the remainder of the journey. He inquired about my existence, my profession, my aspirations. Not in an intrusive way, but he truly seemed to care. He had me chuckling with a quip about how bus drivers must attend a unique academy to discover the art of striking each and every pothole. I recall the thought, this is the essence of a grandpa, affectionate, humorous. I've never experienced that kind of interest. At least, that was my conviction. Upon arriving at my destination, Ted inquired about joining me for a walk, mentioning that he might check out some listings to get a sense of the neighborhood. I replied, "Of course. Why not?" He appeared innocent, charming even. We strolled down 2 blocks to the office, a stylish, contemporary structure with large glass windows, adorned with the name Stoner Real Estate in elegant silver lettering above entrance. Vanessa's greatest treasure. Within the confines of the room, I extended an invitation to Ted for a cup of coffee and inquired if he would like to, please take a moment to wait in the reception area. Vanessa occupied her back office, engaged in a phone call. Her voice drifted through the door, a soft echo that beckoned my attention. Her tone with clients was smooth and confident. Moments later, she completed her call and stepped outside. Elegant gown, flawless hairstyle, and stilettos that likely exceed my entire rent for the month. She was prepared with her polished smile, the one employed for affluent clients. Upon catching sight of Ted, she came to an abrupt halt. I have known my sister for my entire life. I've witnessed her manage irate clients, challenging discussions, challenging circumstances. I have never, not even once, witnessed her falter. Calmness. Yet, in that instant, her complexion faded entirely. Her hand shot out and seized the doorframe with urgency. Could topple. Her smile disappeared. Ted rose to his feet with deliberate slowness. He adjusted his blazer, regarded her with a steady gaze, and remarked, "Hello, Vanessa. I think you mentioned your sister." I was dead. I chuckled. It was an odd statement, one that made me question whether I had truly heard him correctly. Vanessa, who is this man? What is he referring to? Ted glanced my way, his eyes filled with a gentle sorrow. I am Theodore Brennan. I am your grandfather, Leah. The room swayed. It was as if the ground had vanished beneath my feet. It cannot be done, I declared. Years ago, our grandfather passed away, preceding the tragic accident involving our parents. Vanessa remarked, "Is that what she said to you?" Ted's eyes shifted back to my sister. Fascinating, as she shared with me that you perished in the same tragedy that took your parents' lives 12 years prior. I gazed at Vanessa, anticipating her explanation, a laugh, or a declaration that this was merely a misunderstanding. She remained silent. Everything. Her expression was inscrutable, yet I could sense the intricate thoughts unfolding behind her gaze. She was contemplating. How to approach this, Ted continued, his voice unwavering and composed. For 12 years, I grieved for you, Leah. In a single, harrowing night, I believed I had lost my son along with both of my granddaughters. I nearly didn't make it through that sorrow. He took a moment to gather his thoughts. 3 months ago, I came across your photograph on the website of the company. The granddaughter I had been grieving was alive, toiling for her sibling. I struggled to comprehend his words. Everything felt utterly bewildering. Vanessa, my voice faltered. What is he? What are we discussing? My sister has finally made the move. She inhaled deeply, donning a cheerful expression. This with a feigned professional smile, I said, "Grandpa Ted, you're mistaken. There seems to be a misunderstanding here. Allow me to clarify. I am not confused." Ted's tone turned icy. Not furious, merely distant. "I engaged the services of a private investigator, Vanessa. I am fully aware of the impact your actions have had on me, on your sister, and on everyone who placed their trust in you." He delved into his leather pete. She reached into her bag and extracted a substantial manila folder. "Shall we delve into the contents of this?" he inquired. "Or would you rather should I head straight to the police?" The morning brew, I had simply lacked the strength required for this discussion. Vanessa's radiant smile remained steadfast, yet her hands trembled. For the first time in my life, I witnessed a flicker of fear in my sister's eyes, and I understood that whatever lay within that folder was destined to alter everything. Ted unveiled the folder right there in the reception region. Files, images, a substantial printed dossier adorned with the emblem of a private investigator on the front. He described the way he discovered my presence. 3 months prior, he found himself perusing real estate websites, contemplating the sale of his downsizing from a house in Sedona to a more compact space. He selected Stoner Realts. The estate intrigued him, drawing his attention with its name. Stoner was the name his son adopted upon marriage. We severed our connection with our mother and the Brennan family. On the About Us page, he noticed my image. Leah Stoner, the office manager. His heart ceased to beat. The grandchild he had grieved for 12 years while still living. That very day, he engaged the services of a private investigator. The investigator discovered that more dire than Ted had envisioned. For 12 long years, Vanessa had woven a web of deceit around both of us. She informed Ted that I had perished in the accident. She occupied the back seat. She was unable to succeed. She mentioned that Ted passed away years prior to the incident. Dad never found a way to reconcile before the heart attack. 2 deceptions intricately crafted to hold us captives, separated for eternity. Yet that wasn't even the most troubling aspect. For 8 years, Vanessa had been making regular visits to Ted at his A community for retirees in Sedona. She embodied the essence of a devoted, loving granddaughter, a soul persevering through life's challenges. She conveyed she was involved in financial consulting, yet she never spoke of real estate, her company, or anything related. Myself. She maintained a strict division between her 2 worlds, ensuring that this moment would remain impossible. Ted gazed at me, his eyes filled with sorrow. His eyes. She said to me, "You were gone, Leah, and I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? She was my granddaughter. She came to see me. She brought me gifts and called me on holidays. I believed she was all I had left. It made me feel sick." "She's been as she positioned herself to inherit everything," Ted continued. "Over the course of 8 years, she has been the recipient of over $200,000 in gifts from me. She persuaded me I have altered my will on 2 occasions. She is currently the only beneficiary, and she is now urging me to grant her power of attorney as well." Month. His voice remained unwavering, yet the underlying sorrow was palpable. This man had mourned for 12 years, believing his left and see the whole family had vanished, and the one he relied on most had been pulling the strings all along. Ted looked at me. "Leah, I have a question for you. What did you inherit from your parents' estate?" The inquiry took me by surprise. "The guard? $15,000. Vanessa mentioned that there was considerable debt. Credit cards, the mortgage, secrets our parents kept," she remarked. "That was my share." Ted shut his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, a hardness settled in his expression. Anger, perhaps, or disgust. "Your father had a life insurance policy valued at $850,000, he said, his voice measured. Your parents' home transacted at a price of $420,000. The total amount of their investments exceeded $340,000. He allowed those figures to settle in his mind. The estate held a value exceeding $1.6 million. Leah, your share was meant to exceed $800,000. I was left breathless. $800,000. I was expecting to receive $800,000, but instead I ended up with just $15,000. I've dedicated the last 12 years spent struggling to get by, toiling in low-paying jobs, residing in cramped living spaces, consuming inexpensive meals, navigating a vehicle that malfunctioned monthly. Thankful when my sister eventually assisted me with a job that compensated me with less than half of my true value. I glanced at Vanessa. She was still standing there, paralyzed, her mask fracturing further with each word Ted uttered. "You took something from me," I murmured. "I was just 19. Our parents had recently passed away. I placed my complete trust in you, and you took $800,000 from me." Vanessa opened her mouth to speak, but silence enveloped her. That night, I returned to my small apartment and did an action I should have taken 12 years prior. I unearthed a box I had stored away in the depths of my closet, my parents' personal documents. Vanessa handed it to me following the funeral. She claimed it was merely sentimental, nothing of significance. Hadn't taken the time to sift through it thoroughly. It was too much to bear. Beneath the faded photographs and birthday cards, I discovered an envelope addressed to our cherished daughters, Vanessa and Leia. I recalled this letter now. Vanessa had presented it to me immediately after the funeral, while I was weeping so intensely that I couldn't see she read sections aloud, asserting that it demonstrated our parents' intention for us to divide everything fairly, and that was precisely her intention. I never got around to reading it myself. I was just 19, and consumed by sorrow. I had faith in my sister. Now, after 12 years, I found myself seated on my apartment floor and absorbed every word. Our father penned it prior to a business trip, the trip during which the accident occurred. It was intended to be opened if anything were to happen to us. The letter detailed everything. Life insurance, $850,000. Property valued at $420,000. Investment portfolio totals $340,000. The concluding line indicated that it should be divided equally among our cherished daughters, Vanessa and Leia. Our love for you both transcends words. Divided equally. My portion. It should have exceeded $800,000. I could have financed my education. I could have purchased a home. I could have constructed instead of a life. I received $15,000 and a decade filled with challenges, while my sister constructed a vast empire from the wealth she took from me. I remained there until the clock struck 2 in the morning, enveloped in papers I had never taken the time to peruse, gazing at figures that ought to have belonged to me. The calculations were straightforward. That lost money might have purchased around 47,000 lattes or, a life. Ted was correct about another point. He mentioned he had resources, a competent lawyer, and he desired to assist me in obtaining justice. After 12 long years, I finally had someone by my side, someone capable of truly fighting for me. I returned and grabbed my phone to call him. "I discovered the letter," I informed him. "I'm prepared." Ted's attorney was a woman named Patricia Holloway. In her mid-50s, with silver hair, piercing eyes, and an unmistakable lack of patience for fraud. She had dedicated 30 years to managing estate cases in Arizona, witnessing every trick imaginable. When she went through my documents with a critical eye, offering no embellishments. "Your sister is quite the character," she remarked, turning the pages. "I've witnessed siblings clash over a couch in probate court. However, this extent of deception, this is remarkably awful." Patricia submitted requests for the official estate documents from Maricopa County. What the return was far more devastating than any of us had anticipated. 12 years ago, at the age of 20 years old and struggling to cope with her grief, Vanessa submitted a petition to the court. She asserted that I was mentally overwhelmed by profound sorrow and distress. She claimed I was unable to make choices for myself. She conveyed documents bearing my signature, granting her complete authority over our parents' estate. I did not sign those documents. I did not even witness them. Vanessa falsified my signature. She deceived a court. She took everything and abandoned me with nothing but remnants. Patricia followed the money trail, every single dollar. The life insurance payout, $850,000, was deposited into an account that Vanessa managed. She utilized it to settle our parents' debts. The real debts were quite modest. Just a small mortgage, a handful of credit cards, totaling perhaps $80,000. The remainder she retained. Everything together. The sale of the house yielded $420,000. Additionally, our parents' investments contributed an additional $340,000. Once the actual debts were settled, Vanessa walked away with around $1.5 million. She handed me $15,000 and said, "That was my portion." With that misappropriated funds, she initiated Stoner Real Estate. The initial expenses, the first office, indeed the marketing campaigns, the elaborate website, all funded by my inheritance. Each commission she acquired, each property she sold, every dollar of profit, it all blossomed from a future, the essence of betrayal. The Porsche Cayenne acquired with funds that rightfully belonged to me. The $2.3 million residence in Paradise Valley, it's all the same. The designer clothes, the pricey haircuts, the lavish getaways showcased on her social media, all constructed upon a base of deception. And as she reveled in that something, in the midst of life, I found myself toiling through double shifts at a diner, meticulously counting pennies, pondering the reasons behind my inability to get ahead, despite my relentless efforts. I made an effort. Then she extended a job offer to me. Her kind-hearted big sister gesture, a salary of $38,000 a year, to toil 60 hours a week, bringing her coffee and sorting her files. She held me near, kept me destitute, kept me thankful. Patricia further looked into the matter concerning Ted. What she discovered contributed an additional dimension of unlawful conduct. Throughout 8 years, Vanessa had drawn out over $200,000 from our grandfather in gifts. She persuaded him to alter his will twice, designating herself as the exclusive beneficiary of his $4 million estate. She was mere weeks from securing his signature on the power of attorney, a document that would grant her total control over his affairs. This wasn't merely a theft from me. This constituted elder financial exploitation, a grave felony in Arizona. If this tale has you captivated, please take a moment to tap that like button. It truly assists countless individuals in discovering these narratives, and it holds immense significance for me. Thank you. Now let's return to our focus. Patricia presented our choices. We could pursue a civil lawsuit and attempt to reclaim the funds via the legal system. That would spend years and incur significant legal expenses without any assurance of a favorable outcome. Alternatively, we could approach the police, present the evidence, and allow the criminal justice system to take its course. If we execute this properly, Patricia expressed that it wouldn't be merely a loss of money for her. It would mean losing everything. Indeed, our aim was justice, not merely financial restitution. However, Patricia cautioned us that we required a careful approach. We needed to collect every fragment of proof prior to taking action. Financial statements, ownership documents, forged signatures, witness statements. We required an impeccable case. 3 weeks, she understood. Allow me 3 weeks to assemble everything. In the meantime, maintain a sense of normalcy. Ensure she remains unaware of anything unusual. 3 weeks. 21 days of feigning normalcy. Each morning I went to work. I greeted Vanessa with a smile as she fetched her coffee. I replied, "Yes, Vanessa." Immediately, Vanessa and I. Of course, Vanessa complied with every demand. Each interaction felt like ingesting shards of glass. Yet I succeeded. I embraced the part of the appreciative younger sibling, the devoted, the employee, completely unaware that she had been robbed. Later that night, I convened with Ted and Patricia to go over the documents. We meticulously followed the bank transfers. Our case came together gradually, each detail revealing more. I uncovered aspects of my sister's life that were previously unknown to me.